Erev Tov, everyone. And Chodesh Tov. Yeah, Chodesh Tov too, everyone. Adar, first month of Adar. We have 2 months of Adar this year. Yes, we do. Okay, well, it is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars, therefore it must be Zeyde Story Corner. That's right, Zeyde Story Corner. And we are going to continue, or at least Zeyde is going to continue reading the stories from Yiddish folktales from the Yevil Library. And yeah, it's we got through the bad weather. Yes, we did. We did get through the bad weather. It was extremely cold here last week, but today it has been quite pleasant the last couple of days, and we are enjoying it before we actually get back to regular winter weather and so on. So anyway, let's see who we have in the chat room. We have Veronica and Shlomo and Shoshi and Guy, Kelsey Lynn and Mary and Miles. Miles just popped in, just in time. Yeah, just in time. Okay, so, and of course, others will be joining us as they usually do as we go on. So, I guess we should probably get to the stories. Yes, we should. Okay, well, let me get you over onto your camera. Okay, there I am. Okay, let's adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, let's see if we can do this here. Put this down, maybe down a little more. That's better. That's much better. Okay. So, this first story is called Of Metals and Roses. And I see the camera is going to act up tonight. Okay. So let's switch this back and let's fix the camera. I don't know what the camera is. I don't know what its problem is either, but we'll do this. And then we will do this. And we'll see if it'll actually behave now. So let's see. So Miriam has joined us. Good to see you, Miriam. And so here we are again. We'll see if the camera is going to behave. Behave now, camera. Don't make me get after you. Okay. So, okay. So I guess we're about ready to get started with the story. Well, we shall see. And it's going to freeze up again. Okay. Gonna be one of those nights, folks. He's certainly annoying. Yes, it is. It is rather annoying. Yes. There's a here we can. So we got the two banjo tunes. Yeah, we got the two banjo tunes, which means we are disconnected and then reconnected. So let's see if it does any good. So here we go again. Okay. Take it nice and slow. We see if it's going to work okay. Okay. Seems to be okay for the moment. Okay. Let us get on with our story. The first story tonight, as I said, is called Of Metals and Roses. So, behave now, camera. Okay, so, once upon a time, there was a rich man and his wife who had an only child, a very pretty daughter. When the girl was already well grown, and the mother was taken ill and died. After a time, the father began to worry because there was no woman to take care of his daughter. And so he decided to marry again. At first, the new wife loved her stepdaughter and tended her carefully. But when the stepmother gave birth to an ugly daughter of her own, she resented the beautiful child and began to think of ways to get rid of her. Oh my goodness. Oh, can you imagine such a thing? Okay. Now, the rich man, a merchant, traveled frequently on business. Only when he was gone, the stepmother said to the lovely daughter, "Gather up the dirty clothes and wash them in the river outside of town." Now, hearing this, the girl wept bitterly. No one ever went to the river because it was under a curse. Nevertheless, she gathered up the clothing and obeyed her stepmother. When she got to the river, tears rolled down her cheeks as she worked. Suddenly, three water spirits rose out of the water. "Why are you crying?" the first water spirit asked. "Because my stepmother has sent me here to get rid of me." "Don't cry, princess," said the water spirit. "Go back home. And from now on, the rarest roses in the world will spring up in your footsteps." The second water spirit said, "And when you wash yourself, the water in the basin will turn to gold." Well, that's a nice thing. The third water spirit said, "When you speak, your breath will perfume the air and please everyone who hears you." Then the water spirits washed the clothing for her, and the pretty daughter went home. Sure enough, roses sprang up in her footsteps as she walked. When she got home, she put the clothes away and went to wash herself. And sure enough, the water in the basin, it turned to gold. Her stepmother, seeing this, asked her how it had happened. When the pretty stepdaughter described the water spirits, her breath perfumed the room. "Ah," thought the stepmother, "I'll send my daughter on the same errand, and the same thing will happen to her." But when the ugly daughter came to the river, the water spirits asked her what she wanted. She replied rudely, "You gave my sister gifts, now give me some too." "You want gifts, do you?" said the first water spirit. "Very well then. When you walk, nettles will spring up in your footsteps." The second water spirit said, "And when you wash yourself, the basin will fill up with frogs." Boy, better hop to it, huh? Oh, boy, I tell you, I kill myself sometimes. Okay. "And when you walk," said the third water spirit, or "when you talk," said the third water spirit, "your breath will have such a stink that no one will want to listen to you." And that's how it was. As she went home, nettles grew in her footsteps. And when she washed herself, frogs appeared in the basin. And when she told her mother what happened, the house filled with such a dreadful odor that her mother ordered her to stop talking. Now, it happened that in a nearby country there lived a king who had an only son. And this son was looking for a wife. But he turned down every match that was proposed to him. Somehow, he heard of the beautiful girl in whose footsteps roses grew. He discovered that where she lived, and the moment he saw her, he was enchanted. Not only was she beautiful and well-bred, but when she spoke, she breathed such a fragrance that talking with her was a pure delight. What with one thing and another, they soon arrived at an understanding that she would come to his country and marry him in a month's time. At the end of the month, the beautiful girl stole away from her stepmother and her country in the dead of night and married the king's son in his own land. But through consultations with fortune tellers, the wicked stepmother soon learned of this and learned that the royal couple lived in great happiness. And later, she heard that her stepdaughter had given birth to a child as lovely as she was. Of course, many years had gone by, and it all took longer than it takes to tell. Needless to say, the wicked stepmother was furious at the news. She sent for a sorceress and said, "Name your price. Just find a way to kill that stepdaughter of mine." Oh my goodness, can you believe such a thing? "I'll do it," said the sorceress. And off she went to the palace of the stepdaughter. Using her magic, the sorceress found her way inside and to the bedroom where the princess lay sleeping beside her baby. The sorceress took out a long, sharp knife, cut the baby into 4 parts, and put the bloody instrument into the princess's hand. Oh my goodness. Later, the prince wondered why his wife was still sleeping. He went into her room and found the murdered baby and the sleeping princess holding the knife. The prince shouted, "What have you done? What have you done?" The princess awakened, looked around, bewildered. Seeing the corpse of the baby, she cried, "No, no, I didn't do it. I did not do it." But nobody would believe her, because after all, who else could have done it? Besides, no more roses grew in her footstep. No more water turned to gold when she washed, and her breath did not perfume the air when she spoke. The water spirit's magic had been destroyed by the sorceress's evil deed. Okay, let's switch the camera just to see if we can get this working again. Oh, foolish camera. Okay, where were we? Okay. The king commanded that the princess's eyes be put out. Then the mutilated body of her baby was placed in a sack and given to her, and she was driven away from the palace. Weeping bitterly, the blinded princess found her way into the forest. When she sensed that night was falling, she sat under a tree and sang softly to herself like one of the birds in the boughs above. Singing thus, she fell asleep. As she slept, her own mother appeared to her in a dream and said, "My child, you have suffered much, and you are destined to suffer more. But soon you will gain some relief. In the morning you will find yourself sitting beside a well. Touch some of the well water to your eyes. Then take some more water and wash the body of your baby. In the morning, the princess followed her mother's instructions, and when she touched some of the well water to her eyes, her sight returned. And when she washed her baby's body, it came alive again. Happy to be carrying her living baby, she made her way through cities and towns and villages, earning her keep by singing wherever she went. Eventually, the princess tired of wandering. For her growing child's sake, she settled in a large city where she found work with a family of rich people. Sometimes she sang as she worked, and always her song told the story of her life. Everyone who hears her was deeply moved. Now, it happened that her rich employer, who was a friend of the king, gave a banquet to which he invited the king and his son, the prince. The guests were entertained by singers with all kinds of songs. "These songs are very beautiful," the young prince said, "but none tell of lives that are anything like mine. Ah, what I would give if I could hear a song that resembles in some way the story of my life." At this, the hostess said, "There is a young woman working for me who often sings a song that resembles the story of your life." The prince begged his hostess to send for the young woman. The servant, finely dressed in very beautiful, came in and began to sing. And the prince was transfixed as he heard episode after episode of songs that touched on his own life. Then the singer came to the part that told how she married the king's son, how he had cast her away, And what happened to her afterwards? Hearing it all, the prince wept and wept. Then, taking the singer by the hand, he said, "This is she. This is my true and blameless wife, whom I love dearly." And so they were united once more, and they lived happily ever after. Okay, so I am going to stop worrying about the camera. If the camera stays frozen, the camera stays frozen. That's okay. You just pretend that my mouth is moving, okay? So, this is our next story. The Demon and Sosia. Okay. There was a man whose great sorrow was that Sosia, his wife, was a terrible shrew. Though he wanted to get rid of her, he did not know how. He talked it over with a good friend who said, "Listen, there are demons in your well. Why don't you throw Sosie in? Let them have her." And that is what he did. But 3 days later, it occurred to him that it would be only decent to pull his wife's body out and give it a proper burial. So he tied an anchor to a rope and lowered it into the well. When he pulled the rope up, he found a demon clinging to the anchor. He would have thrown the demon back, but it cried, "No, please don't." 3 days ago, a woman named Sosia fell in, and she's down there driving all of us to distraction. When it saw that the man was listening, the demon said, "Don't throw me back in. I'll make you rich. Here's how. I'll go haunt the houses of the nobility. Then you can come and say you know spells and incantations for exorcising demons. You'll recite some words. I'll disappear, and the nobles will pay you a fat fee. But remember, we can do this only 3 times. Any more, and it won't work." "Very well," said the man, and he let the demon go. Well, the demon kept its word and haunted a count's palace so effectively that the household was turned topsy-turvy. Then Sosie's husband showed up and said to the count, "My lord, for a fee, I can recite certain spells and incantations that will drive away the demon who haunts your castle." "If you do that," said the count, "I'll reward you well." With that, Sosie's husband recited spells and incantations, and the demon promptly left the castle. And as he promised, the grateful count gave him a rich reward. Sosie's husband and the demon played this trick on a second nobleman, and then on a third. As a result, Sosier's husband acquired a considerable reputation as an exorcist, and a lot of money besides. Then one day, he was called to exorcise the demon for a fourth time. But the demon said, "Too bad for you. I warned you. This trick would work 3 times only. Now, I'm here to stay for good." Sosier's husband stood sadly for a while, lost in thought. Then he brightened and called in a loud voice, "Sosier, my wife, come back." When the demon heard the name Sosier, it took to its heels and ran off. And the exorcist was richly rewarded again. So, what do you think about that one, huh? Pretty interesting. Okay, so we are at about our halfway point. We are going to take a 6-minute break, and when we return, hopefully the camera will be behaving and we'll be able to get on with the show and you can see me. Because, after all, who doesn't want to see me, eh? Okay, so you stick around and we return in 6 minutes.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
Okay, folks. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see what happens when we put the camera on. Okay, so we're back on the default camera. Let's see if we... And the other camera is no longer there. Okay, let's see if we can fix that. Again, here we go. And we will plug it back in now. No banjo. No, I've got the volume turned down so we don't get the banjo sound. So let's see what happens here. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, if it frees up again, I'm just going to let it freeze up and we will just continue reading the stories. Okay, so you all know how good looking I am, so you don't need to see me talking. Okay, so here we go. Okay, now this story is called How Much Do You Love Me? Once upon a time. There you go, Veronica. You got it in for tonight. Once upon a time, there was a rabbi and his wife who had 3 daughters. The rabbi, wanting to know how much his daughters loved him, said to the oldest, Rachel, dear, how much do you love me? To which she replied, as much as gold. He went to his second daughter and, Chavela, dear, how much do you love me? As much as silver, she replied. Then he said, Sorel, dear, how much do you love me? And she said, Father, I love you as much as food that is properly salted. When he heard as much as food that has been properly salted, he drove her out of his home. Sorle went weeping. Night overtook her, and she had no place to go, but still she walked on. Then she met an older man who was really Eliyahu HaNevi, Elijah the prophet. "Where are you going, my child?" he asked. So she told him her story. "I see," he said. "Here, take this little stick. Keep on this road until you come to a house where you hear someone making a bracha over wine, a blessing over wine. Then be sure to say Amen. But no matter who asks you into the house, don't go unless it is the rabbi himself. Then you may go in. When you are inside, go up to the attic and hide the stick there. Then, whenever you need anything, take the stick out and say, 'Stick, open,' and whatever you want will appear before you." When he had done speaking, he disappeared. She went on until she saw a house and heard someone making a kiddush over wine. 3 times she responded, Amen. Hearing an Amen from outside, the people in the house were startled. The rabbi's wife went out and invited the girl in, but she refused. It was not until the rabbi came out and repeated the invitation that she entered. Inside, she crouched sadly beside the oven. The rabbi's wife brought her food, but it did not cheer her. The next morning, the rabbi, his wife, and his son dressed up too and left the house to attend the wedding. The girl wanted to go too, so she went up to the attic and, taking out her stick, said, "Stick, open." The stick opened, revealing a basin of water and a bar of golden soap. When the girl had washed, she said again, "Stick, open." And it opened to present her with a costly set of clothing. The girl dressed in an exquisite gown and put on a pair of golden shoes. Looking absolutely beautiful, she went to the wedding. There, she dazzled the rabbi's son, who did not recognize her as the beggar maiden living in his own house. But though he asked her several times to say who she was, she always turned the conversation to something else. Finally, he said to his mother, "That beautiful girl won't tell me her name, but I have a plan to find out who she is." He fetched some pitch and used it to smear the doorsill of the house. When it came time for the wedding guests to leave, the beautiful maiden started hastily toward home. But when she crossed the threshold, one of her shoes stuck in the pitch, and she had to go on wearing a single shoe. The rabbi's son picked up the other one and put it in his pocket. Is this beginning to sound a little familiar here to you? Yeah, we shall see, huh? Okay. Meanwhile, Sorle went up to the attic, changed into her old clothes, and came back down again. The rabbi, his wife, and their son returned from the wedding. The son said, "See, I have the beautiful maiden's shoe. I'm off into the wide world to find her." Well, he searched high and low, because you have to search both. You have to search high and you have to search low. Because if you only search one, you've only done half the job, right? Okay, so we go on. He searched high and he searched low for the maiden who could wear the golden shoe. But he couldn't find one. At last, he returned home in despair. "Let me try the shoe," Sorle said. "Perhaps it will fit me." "Come on," he said, "as if a shoe like this could fit a beggar girl like you." She snatched it from him and slipped it onto her foot, where it settled as snugly as if it had been sewn for her. Seeing this, the rabbi and his wife and son were very unhappy. How could he marry a beggar? A few nights later, they were sadder still, because each of them had been warned in a dream not to hinder their son's wedding to the poor girl. The troubled parents went for a walk to consider just what to do. Left alone in the house with the rabbi's son, Sorle said, "If you'll come to the attic with me, I'll show you who I really am." He followed her up the stairs, and the girl said, "Stick open." Suddenly, all sorts of wonderful clothes appeared. "Some for you," she said, "and some for me." Each of them put on the finery and went out for a stroll. Later, the rabbi and his wife, out on their walk, met their splendidly dressed son walking with a beautiful girl as richly garbed as he. This frightened them because of the dream that had warned them not to hinder their son's marriage to Sorle. And here he was walking about with some beautiful and wealthy girl whom they had never seen. The two young people returned to the house and changed to their ordinary clothes. When the rabbi and his wife came home, the son said to his parents, "Stop worrying. I'm going to marry Sorle. Everything will be all right." "Well," said his parents, in some confusion, "if you are determined, then marry her you will." and they sat down to address invitations to all the rabbis in the country. As the wedding preparations went forward, the girl went to the kitchen and said to the cook, "Whatever dishes you make, be sure to cook some without salt." Well, came the wedding day. Rabbis from cities throughout the land appeared. To the amazement of the groom's parents, the bride, in her fine clothes, looked like a princess. After the ceremony, people sat about enjoying their food. One of the rabbis, however, did not find the menu to his liking. Seeing his unhappiness, the bride went up to him and said, "Dear guest, what's the matter? Everyone is eating but you." "Ah," he said, "no doubt the food is very good, but the dishes have no salt." "Father, dear father," she said, "do you remember that I said I love you as much as food that has been properly salted? Yet you drove me away from home." Her father, hearing these words, dropped into a dead faint. Ah! When he came to, he told everyone that the bride was his daughter, and there was carousing and merriment until dawn. Eliyahu Hanavi gave the couple a diamond chandelier for a wedding present, and the moment they touched it, they ascended into heaven. And there you go. Okay, I see the picture stuck. And looking at the bottom of my chin. And it looks like we lost the camera altogether. Okay, so we just leave it there. And we are going to read one more story for tonight. This one is called The Master Thief. Once upon a time, as if you hadn't guessed already, right? Once upon a time, there was a king who had 3 sons, 2 of whom were clever, while one was a fool. The clever ones could not abide the fool and continually ridiculed him. To make matters worse, the fool drifted into bad behavior, such as stealing goods in the marketplace. Oh my goodness, heaven forbid. When the king learned about this, he drove the fool out of the country. The fool traveled on and on until he came to a forest, where he met a band of thieves. "I'm a thief too," he said, "so let me join you." "Very well," they said, and took him into a cave where they gave him food and drink. "Now show us a thievish trick," they said. "Give me a new shoe, then come with me to the highway outside the forest," said the fool. On the highway they saw a peasant driving a horse and wagon. The young thief took one of the shoes, slipped it into the road where the peasant would pass, and hid in the forest. Seeing a shoe lying on the highway, the peasant thought, "One shoe? What good is a single shoe?" and went on. When he was gone, the fool ran out, grabbed the shoe, and ran through the forest for a mile or so. When he was ahead of the peasant again, he darted onto the road, dropped the shoe, and hid in the forest again. The peasant driving by saw the shoe lying there and said to himself, "Ah, if there are two shoes, they might turn out to be useful." So he got down from the wagon and ran back to look for the other shoe. As soon as he was gone, the fool came out of the woods and drove the horse and the wagon into the thieves' cave. Meanwhile, the peasant came back to the place where he had seen the first shoe. He spent several hours looking for it without success, and then went back to his horse and wagon. When he came to the stretch of road where he had left them, he searched high and he searched low, but with no luck. I told you have to search high and you have to search low, otherwise you miss half. Okay. The fool said to the thieves, "Watch me steal his clothes too." "All right," they said, "let's see you do it." He killed the horse, cut off its head, and propped the head up in the water of the river nearby. The peasant, still running and searching for his horse and wagon, saw the horse's head sticking out of the water, was overjoyed. "My nag must have drawn the wagon into the river." With that, he took off his clothes and dashed into the water to lead the horse out. In the meantime, the young thief stole the peasant's clothes and carried them to the other thieves. When they saw what he had done, they said, "You're much too clever for us. You could trick us out of everything. So why don't you just go away? Here, take as much money as you like, but go away." The young thief took a large sum of money and went from one country to another, learning more and more about his trade, until he became a master thief. One day he came to a kingdom whose king had an only daughter, the most beautiful young woman in the world. The king had decreed that whomever could guess her name within 4 months could marry her. But anyone who guessed wrong would be sent to prison and fed only bread and water for 40 years. The young thief discovered that his 2 clever brothers had tried and failed to guess the princess's name, and now lay in the king's dungeons. "Ah," said the young thief, "I'll marry the king's daughter without having to guess her name." So he dressed in fine clothing and went to the palace, where he announced that he was a prince who wanted to marry the princess. Now, the king gave a great banquet, at which the thief was an honored guest. Everyone ate and drank the best of everything, and the king granted the thief the usual 4 months to guess his daughter's name. As the feast proceeded, the young thief stole the king's wine cup. When the servants were clearing the table, they noticed that it was missing, and they reported it at once to the king. He decided that everyone at the banquet would have to be searched. The guests lined up, and the thief got behind a priest who wore a hood that hung down behind his back. The thief slipped the cup into the hood, and of course, no one searches a priest. So the holy man went out of the palace with no trouble. The thief followed him and retrieved the cup from the hood. Now, after everyone at the banquet had been searched and the cup had not been found, the king's counselors decided that he should give another banquet a week later and strewn gold coins on the floor. No doubt the thief would be among the guests, and when he tried to steal the coins, he could be caught. At the banquet, the young thief saw the gold coins laying on the floor and noticed that no one bent to pick them up. Well, what do you think he did? He went out and took some axle grease from the wagon and put it on the soles of his shoes. Then he walked about over the coins and got them all because, of course, they stuck to his soles. Well, since no one had seen anyone bending down, the king's counselors proposed giving another banquet a week later. At that time, the princess, wearing her diamond earrings, would be put to bed in the garden. If he was there, the thief would certainly try to steal the earrings from her. But the princess would be given a piece of indelible chalk with which to mark the thief when he made the attempt. And guess what? Donald, we do this just for you. This is where we are going to stop for this evening. We are going to make this a cliffhanger, just for you. Okay, let us put a camera back on here. Okay, well, despite all the problems with the cameras and everything else, we still got some good stories in. And we got a cliffhanger. Yeah, that's true. This is the first time we've had a cliffhanger in quite a while. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Don't forget, each week on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern is Zeyde Story Corner. Zeyde Story Corner, and hopefully we will have the camera situation figured out by then, whatever is going on with it. Okay, so anyway, don't forget on Wednesday night is the Torah study with Rabbi A. and Reb Reuven, and we will continue our in-depth study of the Torah at that time. Also, Friday evening at 8 p.m. is Kabbalat and Mariv Shabbat service, and then on Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. is Shachrit and Musaf. So, I hope to see you all then, and until the next time, we shall say, Laila Tov.